Hello.
Welcome everyone to the Murray City Municipal Council Committee of the Whole meeting for November 25th, 2025. It looks like everyone is here. And we have no minutes to be approved, so we're going to go on to our first discussion item. It's Murray Senior Rec Center report by Hal Loop. Hal, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Well, thank you again for letting me come and tell you about some of the life at the Murray Active Aging Center. We really love your support for the center here. On Friday, it's mine, okay. Yeah, I worked a minute ago. Here.
Oh, got it.
I think it's just screen is on. Mouse.
Help us there, yeah.
I thought I was pushing the
Here
right
he
button.
is.
so
He can help you, Hal.
I could connect it right up there. Okay, and then disconnect between the two.
It's just.
Okay. There we go, okay.
Oh, he wasn't supposed to show us what he does in the afternoon.
That's right, this was my playtime.
It's a good hand though.
I don't even know how to play that.
Well, nothing to know, but I think I guess as long as it shows up here, I'm probably okay. So I'll go between the two, yeah.
I would know
Okay,
that.
no, okay. Okay. Anyway, on October 24th, the center held another bridge tournament. We had one earlier in the year, and they try and hold two a year for those seniors. This just kind of shows their rules sheet, and they do have pretty strict rules on what they do. They go, and the group here, for 3 hours during that day, there were 24 participants competing their skills and knowledge. They held 6 30-minute rounds of play to determine who was the winner. So, like I say, it's grueling. And basically all 24 players made it through without killing each other. And this is a pretty diverse group. Men, as I kind of showed over here on the side here, there's some over here too, but they make up about a third of the participants out of the bridge tournament. Out of the age span for the bridge tournament, we had 1 in their 50s, 2 in their 60s, 5 in their 70s, 8 in their 80s, 6 in their 90s, and 2 over 100. I don't know if the screen, this lady here is June, and she's 102.
She showed up at the Thanksgiving.
Oh, this one showed up at Thanksgiving.
Which one there? Oh, yeah, that's right. 101?
She's 100 this year. She turned 100 this year.
She's just a young kid.
Yes. And so, you can see that they're keeping their minds at least real strong, and they seem to be doing it pretty good on their bodies too, because neither of them use walkers or canes. I think they have some of their daughters or whatever drive them to the center, but getting around, there's really no problem. So if you are getting kind of bad, go join bridge. So bridge is quite a popular situation here with the group. On every Wednesday and Friday afternoon, they meet and socialize for about 3 hours playing, against each other. And it's a fairly consistent group here. And they have a pretty good time. And then on Mondays, they have a special beginners bridge group. So it is quite a popular thing to have that. So now we're going to switch a little bit here. So also during the month, well, actually in November, we switched. On November 14th, or no, November 10th, we had the annual Veterans event. And this is about the 15, we've had it over 15 years, we've been doing that. Each year, there's some of the uniforms that, from the members that are displayed to help us show how things look. As you can see, that April does a real great job of keeping all the decorations nice and pretty. We started the event at about 11:15 with the color guard presenting the colors. And then they also led us in the Pledge of Allegiance for the group there. Then after that, Maureen Tillman, again this year, sang us the national anthem. It was good and everybody enjoyed it. And Chef Omar fed us
That's good.
some French toast casserole, eggs, bacon, and fruit. So as you can see, it's not does a pretty good job all the way around.
Piece of bacon.
And we also had Maureen Angus, who played some patriotic songs again. She joined us again last year, so that's good. So out of this group that showed up, there were 31 veterans that actually showed up. There were 2 in their 60s, 13 in their 70s, 11 in their 80s, and 4 in their 90s. The oldest veteran is that gentleman right there, Larry Lindbergh, and he's 98 years old. As you see, he's not in quite the best shape as the 2 women, but he does have a pretty good mind there, so everything's going good. So I thank you for your allowing me to participate and show you kind of what's going on in the center here, as we really appreciate your support and all for us old folks to have a nice place to work. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Thanks, Tom.
great.
Okay, our next discussion item is a resolution finding that adopting the Utah Wildland Urban Interface Code to apply within Murray City is impractical. Joey Middleman, Precepty.
It's okay, I'd like to bring Jeff Poles up.
Of course.
My hang out the guy.
Welcome.
Do we need Ben up here?
No, we should be good. Maybe, we'll see.
Maybe.
Famous line, that was
I gave
way
it
too
here.
early to say that. So Ben will laugh when he has to walk up here in just a sec. So, thank you, council, for hearing us out. It is kind of an interesting thing to adopt something that's impractical or to have a resolution. The reason that we're here before you is because we do engage in wildland urban interface for the county as well as the state to be a resource. And so we have 3 Type 6 engines as well as our regular engines that are deployable within the Valley assets as well as statewide. However, being part of that, that also ties us into a couple of contracts, as well as the state passed House Bill 48 this last year, which then requires us, or you as a council, to recognize any WUI areas within the city. Jeff will explain that and why we don't have that, but that's the introduction. A little bit more introduction for Assistant Chief Poles. He has a little bit of a history or a background, not in the prison, but he did start in the prison way back when, but in wildland. You know, the coolest title out there is to be called a heliboss, and he was actually a heliboss down in the Grand Canyon and doing wildland. So anyhow, with that, I'll let Polsey talk.
Thanks, Chief. So yeah, we'll make this a little quick. A little bit of the history, he said. So there's some passion here with wildland fire for me. It is the previous life. I did work National Park Service, Grand Canyon Fire and Aviation Program. So we'd heli-rappel into fires, fly into fires, hike into fires, take engines into fires. So anywhere from Big Bend, Texas, up to Glacier, Montana, down to the California, Oregon coast, down to San Diego. So anywhere in that area, probably 300 plus incidents. So there's a little bit between wildland fire, wildland urban interface, fire use, and prescribed fire. So once this code came up, Chief and I talked about it. I really don't think this meets Murray. It's a great tool, and I see where the state's going with it. The big 50,000 foot view, the state, we do need to harden and protect structures. County-wise, yes, and Murray, not so much. We're in the urban suburban area, and we have an area map that we can show you. The big thing is if we go to Park City, you get up over the summit, you start dropping down. You don't want to break the speed limit. There's always highway patrol there, but you look to the right, where you see those cabins, those houses, you have really tight roads, poor water service. I shouldn't say poor. Water service is not as good here with the hydrant as we have with the hydrants here. And then that forest bleeds right in those structures. There's no defensible space there's no hardening the structures. And this is trying to get people to take accountability. So we really don't have something that meets that down here in the urban area of Murray. So that's the first bullet point. Many of the Utah communities lie within what we call the wood wildland urban interface, and that's where those homes and everything intermingles. The WUI code sets up defensible spaces, no 5 foot of anything combustible, wood chips, anything like that. Hardening your structures, no wood shake shingles. It sort of limits the building with everything, and we do not have anything like that. And it's just that increased fire zone. You see the fires every year. The structure's out there in the wildland urban interface, and it just bleeds right in. It's this homeowners and insurances trying to do something to, you might have seen it with the Maui structures, that hardening, the miracle home that withstood it. So that's one of the things. This House bill was enacted March 3rd, 2025, and it says we have to have the WUI designated areas by January 1, 2026. And again, the blue bullet point, we currently do not have a wildland urban interface zone. So
If I could just put
Yep,
one thing
please.
in there, it's you guys have maybe heard from some of your neighboring council members or neighboring cities or seen on some public bulletins that they are having meetings, the DNR, with folks up on the bench and stuff, and that doesn't pertain to us. Although they have had meetings, because there's a fiscal note to this that I'll explain at the end. But keep going.
perfect. I'll hit just this last bullet point. I know we only have 10 minutes, and I went a little long with my part, but the resolution serves as a formal recognition of the absence of WUI within the Murray City geographical boundaries. So, Chief, if you want to take the limit, rest, I know we're sort of time compressed.
We have the PowerPoint that you guys can kind of refer back to just for some of the notes and stuff. It's a lot of words up on there, which I don't love on a PowerPoint. But the key thing that it is on that 4th bullet point, insurance carriers will utilize the state-defined WUI boundaries to set that risk assessment, and that is what I, as your fire chief, don't want within the city, not because I fear residents paying some sort of a fee or that, but it's also kind of a burdensome on you guys to actually manage that if we don't have it. So say, for example, along the Jordan River, that might hit your mind, say, well, there's a lot of trees down there. Shouldn't that be a WUI area? And if we did that, that would also do 2 parts. They would be able to have a 20% surcharge on their homeowner's insurance for that, as well as we would, as an agency, go out and do little surveys of those properties. Not that that's totally inappropriate, but the WUI code would then constrict us on the building within those areas. Our Parks Department does a fantastic job of going and undercutting that area, and we will continue to work with them on just mitigating that ourselves. And it doesn't hit an official map. The state engages. So I think we are best as a city handling this internally and within our own boundaries. South Salt Lake, Midvale, those are both 2 similar cities. Even West Jordan and South Jordan along the Jordan River, you won't see any of that designated throughout the valley as a WUI area. And so that would meet the standards. So we're not proposing anything that's outrageous or anything. The areas that will be a WUI area is up along the benches. You're going to see some WUI area creep in up through there. And then when Paul's mentioned up into the summit area up in Park City, they have their hands full of doing that. So what we end up needing to do with House Bill 48, as I've talked with GL, is we have to drop a resolution that recognize our WUI area, or what the state said, recognize that we don't have any WUI area. The idea for us to not recognize anything causes us to say, we at least brought it to the agenda, and that's where rather than adopting the WUI code that would never be used, we have a resolution that says we don't need to adopt it because we don't have a WUI area. So hopefully that's in a nutshell. We've kind of covered. What questions do you guys have?
I don't have any. Makes
How
sense.
can we take you serious when you keep saying a woo?
I know.
That is true.
He said woo to me probably 5 times, and then today he said it about 25 times. I'm going,
That's how you know I drank the Kool-Aid, because
Yeah.
I never understood what WUI meant, and then these guys always say it, so I've had to learn it. It's like sample. We ask sample questions. That's our medical signs, symptoms, allergies, medications, passport, and it has a blah, 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 blah. You guys will hear my whereas at next council meeting, if that's okay, and that would be the resolution. So if I could
Yeah.
have your guys' permission to push that forward, that would be great.
Sure, sounds good.
Thank you guys so much for your time.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, our next item is discuss an ordinance enacting section 17.76.165 of the Merced City Municipal Code relating to residential lawns. Zach's not here, Chad is doing the presentation.
No kidding.
Chester A.R. Yes, I like, that's a new one.
Yeah,
Usually it's Ebenezer Scrooge or something like
You
that.
know, every meeting we've had, people say, when he tells them I'm not, oh, you're in Scrooge?
Not this
No,
time,
not
someday. This is Mr. Bennett, you can, introduce you to him. I'm really actually shocked, when I went to Costco yesterday at lunch, there was a man that had a beard down to about his belly button, and no one even looked at him, but these chops got all kinds of attention. Every person, what's he doing? Yeah, pretty funny. Just 6 more weeks, that's all you got, so.
Take your pictures now.
So that's right. that's a
Brutal.
waste of a picture. Okay, so this is, of course, in response to a discussion we had some weeks ago. What's happened since we last talked about ponds? We have drafted some ordinance language. We've taken that ordinance language to the Planning Commission. We've had a public hearing. The Planning Commission's made a recommendation, so we're going to talk about all those things tonight. This is some information that you've already seen. This was new to the Planning Commission with the caveat, that little double asterisk down there. So this is a plot twist that we wanted to talk a little bit about. Last time we met with you, we showed you the cities that do and do not require a pond permit. Once you give us direction to move forward with this ordinance, naturally we wanted to go contact those cities that did require these permits. And the best example of an ordinance that was out there was Harriman City. We had a very thorough ordinance, it had a lot of detail, it had a process that people would go through. So that was, our first thought was, let's go to them, because this a lot of the work has been done, a lot of the heavy lifting has been done on putting together some standards. When we reached out via the internet first, we noted that that the standard that we had seen before no longer existed. So I had our building official, Thomas Butts, reach out to their building official and say, hey, we used to have some standards for pond permits, we can't find them, what's happened? So what had happened is that just recently, the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, you didn't probably know that there was one of those, but that there is one. That's a subset of the international building codes that are out there. And they have adopted some clarifying language. Before I get into that clarifying language, I got ahead of myself. As we looked at these cities on what thresholds they have for requiring permits for ponds, typically there's this on the right side of the screen, you can see there's a 24-inch or 5,000 gallon threshold, right? As we've asked cities why, they've said, well, kind of rule of thumb based on the standard in the building code that relates to above ground water tanks, not ponds, right? Just above ground water tanks. That's the closest that we had. We don't really have any good standard that we can point to that says this is where a pond ought to have a permit. So we've kind of gone with this, right? So as Harriman was considering that, they saw this change to the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code that said that The pools and spas covered by this code are either permanent or temporary and shall only be those that are designed and manufactured to be connected to the circulation system, and this is the key for them, are intended for swimming, bathing, or wading. In that discussion with the Harriman building official, they said, we just could not justify applying these standards that were meant for pools to ponds, simply because ponds are different than pools. That was their response to us. We just could not, there was, with that clarification from the International Swimming Pool and Spa Code, they just felt they could not justify applying that standard anymore. So because they didn't have a good threshold standard, they just said, we're not going to require permits anymore for these. These are the proposed standards that went before the Planning Commission. We have, it's A through E there. You can see that there's some definition in there. There's also some requirements that apply whether or not you have to have a permit. So there, even for small ponds, we have some requirements that apply. That would include a liner, having the pond at least 5 feet from the property line, having electrical permits for any pumps or lighting. That's always applied to every city right now does that. And the Wasatch Front, they require these. If there's electrical, they require a permit for that. What did change, we had originally proposed a threshold for that building permit of ponds that are greater than 24 inches in depth and more than 5,000 gallons require a building permit with some various standards there. As we went through the Planning Commission process, they recommended that you take that letter E off if you were to adopt this ordinance, that you do not require a permit, that you were to keep those minimum standards that would apply to a pond, no matter what the size is, 5 feet from the property line, have a liner, et cetera. But they did say, their recommendation was that you did remove that last letter there. So just basic, pond basics, pond 101, I guess you could say. This is what ponds usually look like. There's a pump involved. There's some type of a liner. There's various liners that can be used. As an example, you have the ponds you've seen probably at Home Depot or Lowe's, that big plastic thing that just goes right in the ground, pretty plug and play. You have on the right side a membrane. This is the most common liner. You can see that picture that shows kind of looks like just a black plastic tarp. What happens, of course, is that people then cover that with rocks and other ornamental features so that you don't see that tarp around these ponds typically. And then that one over there on the lower left is clay. It's a type of clay, bentonite clay that's used, that's super absorbent, and that when you get it installed right, becomes a watertight liner. So that's kind of the typical liners that you'll see for a pond. I'm going to go back for just a second. So this is what, again, a typical setup that you would see. You can see how that liner, you have some type of an underlayment, and then that liner goes over the top. These liners are not super thick, but that's usually a typical setup. Just by way of context, we shared this information with you before, but just to go back over it, because we did share this with the Planning Commission, in relation to that 5,000 gallon standard that we had originally applied, that little red square is what 5,000 gallons would be compared to a typical pool size, right? So you can see that, I said square little red rectangle there. So this gives a little more detail on that. Typical pool 15 by 40 is going to be about 20,000 gallons. That 10 by 15 by 4.5 is 5,000 gallons. And then we just decided, just for size context again, just to figure out what the gallons would be if that trampoline was a pond. So that's a 15 diameter pond. In our little exercise here, it's about 3,000 gallons, just to give you a size comparison. It's another application, this particular neighborhood had a lot of ponds or pools, so we're able to kind of apply that same standard, just to give you, again, a comparison of what 5,000 gallons looks like compared to the typical 20,000 or so gallon pool. Okay, one of the problems though with kind of figuring out these pool sizes is that, or pond sizes, excuse me, is that ponds don't ever look like pools, right? They look more like this. They have curves and in and outs and ups and downs, and the depth changes. You can see, this is a good example because you can see how the depth changes within that pond structure. You've got some little shelves, places for fish to go and hide from the raccoons and the herons and things that try to get them. As we were originally having the conversation with the Planning Commission, we wanted to throw this one in because this self-reported was about 2,000 gallons. This is a person in another part of the country that was part of the pond organization, so we haven't had a chance to go verify, but they self-reported that this was about a 2,000 gallon pond. So you can see it doesn't take a very big pond to have what we would perceive as being quite a bit of water. This is a Murray example though. I have measured this one. This is in someone's front yard actually. This is a member of the Wasatch chapter of, it's a pond association, right? And he was aware of this potential ordinance going forward, invited me to his house, had a chance to look at this. This was a reason why we had originally proposed that 24-inch threshold, and 24-inch and 5,000 gallons instead of just a 24-inch threshold, was because his pond it's about 30 inches deep. It's not that big or wide, though it's about 6 by 8. Kind of depends on what part you're measuring. You could go a little bit bigger than that on one end. So that particular pond gets you to about 1,000 gallons. It's right around that. You can see the fish in there in that picture. It's a really nice pond. He's got a nice pump system there. And his two concerns that he expressed to us were, we'd really like to not have a fence requirement because this is in his front yard, and a fence would make that very difficult to have that pond exist. And then also just making it based on a minimum depth, that 24-inch, which I'm going to say is just a number. That's a number that's being applied from a building code that you can argue doesn't apply, right? So he, again, the request was that we not, if we were to adopt a permit requirement, that we would not include just a depth standard. We would have a depth and a size standard as the minimum. So one more thing about this that's important to note is that he indicated that anyone that builds a pond would never have an objection to requiring a liner. He said, if you're going to build a pond, you want the water to stay in your pond. And everyone that we've talked to that's had ponds or contemplated a pond recognizes that we would never have a pond that would not have a liner because simply the water would evaporate, they'd filter into the ground, you'd be defeating that purpose. So you'd have a liner of some kind. So he had no objection to that. He and others in that pond association that he talked to had reviewed our ordinance and didn't have any objections to what we originally proposed. So we talked about a few of these before with you. There are some similarities with pools and ponds, but there's some big differences. These are usually vegetation, fish, landscape materials. Something that came up, we've already talked to you about this, but the DWR and Mosquito Abatement District currently take care of any kind of fish or mosquito regulations out there. Big issue for our building department is that trying to figure out how we permit these. There is no structure with the pond. It's a hole that has a liner. So typically you have no structure involved with that. So it's difficult to determine submittal requirements. And that's something that our building official was really worried about is how can we review a permit when we don't have any kind of structure to review? So what that means is that you'd have to have some kind of design professional, an engineer, soils engineer, geotechnical engineer that would prepare reports, documents that could be then reviewed by the building division to see if it met best practices and standards. So again, that's the next bullet point. You'd have to use third-party consultants for soil and stability analysis if you require a permit, and that would increase cost to those that wanted to put these ponds in, because there's no other way for us to review something if we don't have something that's prepared for us to review. Again, we've talked about this before, but I just put it up there. When something like this comes forward, when it's not a frequent issue, we want to be just very cautious. We want to make sure that we're careful, just so we don't create unintended consequences. And then if we decide not to adopt a specific code standard, you can still use civil remedies as a neighbor. If there's issues, you can still go through that civil process. So back to the Planning Commission action. This was held, the hearing was held on October 16th. We had some people from the public that got up and spoke in favor and against the ordinance. The vote was 4-1, and I want to explain that 4-1 vote because this is an unusual type of opposing vote. So the 4 voted to approve with letter E removed. The one who voted against it actually expressed that he didn't feel that there should be any regulations, that there was not a need for regulation. So his opposing vote was, I just don't think that we need to do this at all. Just want to make sure that that's clear. So again, that letter E that you see there was what they voted to remove as part of their recommendation. We would support the Planning Commission's recommendation to you. We did have that text included in the original, so if you wanted to consider that, that's up to the discretion of the council on that. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
How would that be enforced? The regulations that have been recommended, how would we enforce that? Just by complaints from the neighbors?
Yeah, similar to, we have right now small sheds that don't require permits as well. And if we find out that someone has violated those standards, we work with them to, for example, if it's too close to a property line, we'll work with them to move the shed further away from the property line. So it would come through that same way. I'm gonna go back to those standards for just a minute, but as I was saying before, the folks from the Wasatch Pond Association, Wasatch Front Pond Association, they said that many of these things are just common sense, that, there certainly might be someone that might try to tuck a pond back closer, so it's important that people would understand that. But again, having a liner, getting an electrical permit, no problem from anybody. That just made sense to people that looked at this. Electrical permits would only be required when it's not just a plug and play though. The one that I showed you that's in Murray is so close to their house that he's just got a cord that's attached to his pump. I want to just go back to that. It's kind of nifty. It was a really cool system. I took some other pictures that I didn't include in the slideshow, but see if I can get my cursor to show up. This is just right adjacent to his house. So he's got a plug right there. His pump's within this. It's a natural filter system that he uses. It's got layers of rock and charcoal and all kinds of things. It's pretty cool. But that plug just goes into that wall right there. So it doesn't. His did not require an electrical permit because it was just plug and play.
I don't think we want to discourage people from having ponds. I mean, I think that if we regulate it so much that that's what will happen. I think having ponds is a really nice feature for many yards.
So the size and the volume really is just an arbitrary number. There's no safety reasons,
No,
structural reasons.
It's based on a code that really has to do with above ground tanks. And that when we talk about above ground tanks, that's where it's a tank. So
Yeah.
when it gets to that size of a tank, you do start to get some hydrostatic pressures and things that
Sure.
that make you want to look at that a little more closely.
Ponds just completely useless.
Pond is just, they've applied it, and again, that's why Harriman backed away, because they said, now that we have the clarification that this was never meant to apply to something besides a pool, they
Okay.
pulled away. So
I have concerns about not discussing the size of it without any restrictions. Someone could turn their whole backyard into a pond.
As long as they stayed 5 feet off the property line.
As long as
yeah.
they stay 5 feet off the property line. The mosquitoes, the issues that deal with that would just, it would require a professional level of understanding to manage something like that.
the mosquito abatement district said that they have excellent luck with getting homeowners and others to voluntarily comply with those mosquito abatement. Everybody wants to keep the mosquito levels down, homeowners as well. They have some pellets that they use. They have fish. You can get the mosquito-eating fish.
Yeah.
So they said that their rate of compliance when they are aware of a mosquito problem is, he said, almost 100%. He said there are a few people that just, as there always are, that just are not. They're scofflaw type people. People don't bother me. But he said for the most part, you get almost 100% compliance. So again, I think there are already some, and actually those types of controlled ponds are easier for them to work with rather than just a natural pond, right?
I just find it that I'm currently looking at building a deck. I'm restricted by setbacks on that deck. Yet I could build a pond and it's 5 feet to the property line. But my deck is now 20 feet from the property line. I'd much rather see a neighbor put in a deck than a pond.
I think others might have a different opinion about that, but
Yeah, that's just my opinion. I'm just concerned at the lack of restrictions on the size of it. If we allow them to go any size they want, as long as they're within 5 feet of the property line. That's my concern.
Do we require a building permit for a hot tub?
that's an it depends type of a question. Depends on the size of the hot tub.
Next year.
So, yeah, there are some, you've seen some of these bigger swim spas and those kind of things that would require a permit, but depends on the size.
So we do require a permit.
Or depending on size, and again, you've got a structure, you've got different things. Again, our city engineer, our building official have looked at this and said that these are just, ponds are different than pools, right? The issues that come with, for example, soils really are mostly mitigated with liner. When you have a good liner in there, most of those issues are just mitigated by that. So
Because we're short on time, we've got 2 minutes left. Can we take, would you object if we could table this for a couple of weeks?
It's gonna be more than a couple of weeks. It'll be into
Does anybody else
next
have
year.
concerns? If I'm the only one, you can move forward and they'd end up, 4-1.
So this is scheduled for the December 9th meeting, so there's no decision tonight.
Right, but I'm just saying,
Let's keep discussing. I don't know.
let's discuss this more.
If you want to discuss it in another committee, we could do it on the 9th, or you can do it next
Instead of
year. You wouldn't
discussing
vote on it
committee
until
night,
next
let's-
year. So
I don't know
it's
how I
up to
feel
you.
about striking it yet. I want to think about it some.
And I guess if we bring it back, we should probably let staff know what we want to discuss in 2 weeks. If we're not sure, I would recommend maybe not bringing it back till January.
I will just say, just to, again, address that very quickly, we just have not had issues with people building that large of a pond in their backyard. This is, again, caution should be used to say what could possibly happen. In all the years that the city has had zoning regulations, this has not been an issue. And I've got some slides I can show you next time, but there's ponds and pools that exist next to each other. There just have not been significant issues with that size issue in someone's backyard. Part of that, we do have some regulations based on maximum coverage standards that would keep them from doing the entire backyard. They get a fairly large pond, sure.
And that's what one of my neighbors did. They did their whole backyard with a pond. But now they're gone and now it's dirt.
And it's probably one of those meandering kind of things, and maybe not, okay?
It was, so, but it's okay.
Yeah, so let's bring it back.
Okay,
Just keep discussing this.
You want to bring it back on the 9th?
do we want to bring it back on the 9th?
Yeah, nine's fine.
Sure.
Okay,
I don't think we need to spend tons of time. 10 minutes is probably sufficient.
yeah,
Dude,
10 minutes on the 9th?
Yeah.
Let's do 15.
Give us a chance to do a little bit.
Okay, now we're going 15. Do we have 15?
Yeah, 15 is better.
You have a pretty short committee.
Oh, okay,
so
then we'll
let's-
go 15. Thank you, Chad.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Also, the depth is interesting phenomenon because that's where the fish go, and if you want to have fish in the winter, you need to have it deep.
Minimum depth.
Yeah, and that picture you showed of the pond right next to the porch or something, you said 30 inches?
Yeah.
Imagine stepping off of that. And all of a sudden you're in 30-inch water, a kid or somebody, we need to talk about this a little bit more.
Good concerns, haven't had issues with it, but good concerns, yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chad. Okay, our next discussion item is an ordinance enacting Title 11 of the Murray City Municipal Code, establishing the Administrative Code Enforcement Program. Chad Wilkinson is again.
Thanks.
it's been so long since we've seen it.
Gee,
Yeah.
you look different.
I grew some sideburns since then.
That was fast.
So, I don't have a lot to say. I wanted to give plenty of time for questions from the council. I'm going to just bring up just a couple of slides really quick. But for the most part, we talked about this at some length a few months ago, yeah, back in August. This is the actual ordinance language that would be proposed, just as a review. We're talking about the Administrative Code Enforcement Program, and for some reason that has distorted that. I don't know why that's giving me that kind of a resolution on that, but these slides are not as important, I guess, as that last one anyway. Let's go right there. But as we talked about last time, the Administrative Code Enforcement Program would give us an opportunity to do administrative violations and administrative citations. Those are really the two applicable codes here. Those differ. One of those, a citation would be for a one-time kind of a violation, maybe a parking violation. It's a ticket. And we would say, you're in violation of the code. Here's the fine for that violation. That would only come after a warning. Our plan is to do warnings as well. But once someone's received a warning and not complied, they'd receive a citation. It's a one-time fee they would have to pay. Violation would differ in that you would have ongoing fines that would accrue day after day. That would be for something like an illegal shed, someone that just refuse to work with the city on trying to fix an illegal shed, then that would give us an opportunity to have fines that would accrue day after day until they were to resolve that issue. Again, as we talked about before, it also sets up an appeal process, an administrative appeal process. It doesn't have to go through the courts. We would select and appoint an administrative law judge that would hear those. That's typically a local attorney. In our ordinance that we've proposed, it requires that to be someone that's an attorney that has some experience with the law that would hear those matters and make those decisions related to those appeals. So that's it in a nutshell. There's close to 40 pages of ordinance though, and I wanted to give you a chance to ask any questions you've had as you've gone through and reviewed. Just briefly, there's 10 chapters. Those 10 chapters also include things besides administration, like abatement. So there would be times when we didn't get any kind of reaction from a homeowner or property owner, and it authorizes the city to go in and do some abatement, which would mean we go in and fix that issue, whatever that issue may be. That's not without precedent right now in city code. We have currently the ability to do that with weeds. If someone just refuses to chop their weeds after proper notice, we can go in and do it ourselves and charge them for that service that we provide. This would also, we continue that same weed enforcement standard, but we would also allow for this process to be applied to those weed cases as well. If we have someone that was a perpetual, what we don't want to become, which we have become with some, is the new landscape service for those folks that just don't want to chop their weeds. That's what happens is year after year we have some repeat offenders that we just go in and chop their weeds for them, and they pay it every year and we become their landscape service. In this case, if we have someone like that, we can go in with these administrative citations, administrative violation notices, and say, we're gonna give you a fine for every day that you don't get this done.
So you wouldn't go in and chop their weeds down?
We could, but if we had a repeat offender that it was obvious that they were just using us as their landscape
Right,
company,
this is,
then we could do this administrative violation instead.
okay.
And have a fine that would accrue day after day until they fix the problem. So we'd have that available. This is also going to be a process that's available to our other city departments. So if we have fire issues, public works issues related to stormwater and things, this would be a process they could use in coordination with the code enforcement division, which you're also being asked to adopt as part of this process. And so we're excited. We think it's a good process that, again, it does two things. It helps the city from the perspective of we have some new tools available to help us get compliance with code enforcement issues, but it also helps the public because now we have a predictable process rather than saying, well, we are going to take you to court and that may last 6 months to a year before we get in front of a judge to talk to this. We can say, we've got an administrative hearing that's scheduled within several weeks from now. You can have a chance to appeal this. They'll have, a predictable process that they know the steps, and those steps will be put on our city website so that someone can say, where am I in this process? Here's the next step in this process. And we think that's good for the public as well as the city. So again, I've been talking a long time, but are there any questions about those 40 pages or so of ordinance?
I have a question. No, sir.
Yeah, I don't see anywhere that tells us about how much it's gonna cost.
Yeah, it's in there. Let me find, we have some base fees that we can also adopt. It's kind of a not less than fee right now, but we could also adopt fees in our.
I think she means
consolidated
cost
fee
of the
schedule.
city.
Will cost the city.
Yeah.
So the code enforcement program, we already have budget for code enforcement officers. We have budget for 3 right now, which we wouldn't be proposing any new code enforcement officers. The one additional budget item that we don't have a total handle on yet would be the hiring of a part-time administrative law judge. And part of that's going to be putting together a request for proposals, getting those proposals back from local attorneys that are willing to do this. And so it's hard for us to judge exactly what that would be until we find out what their billable rates are going to be and what they're going to charge us for that service. But there will be a financial impact. However, there will also be fees and fines that will apply.
Probably cover.
That will, we don't know if it'll cover, but it will definitely could be applied towards this program, administration program.
What about drawing resources to other departments, say like finance, for handling payments and stuff like that?
And certainly an impact on those. There'd have to be payments made through the finance department. They're not going to be involved other than that payment process though, so it wouldn't be necessarily until we got to that payment process that they would be involved. So I don't know that I have a good answer for you on a number, but yeah, there certainly would be somewhat of an impact on that. We would expect it wouldn't be a big impact on the finance folks, just they'd be taking payments.
Okay.
So walk me through the selection of the judge process here, because, 11,660 advise and consent of the city council. So is it going to go through the same process we do with the other judge? You recommend, the mayor recommends, and we approve? Is that how we're going to do this?
And that's how we envision it. So we would do, like I said, a request for proposals. We'd see which attorneys are willing to fill this role. There are attorneys out there that are filling this role for other cities. We would assume that some of those would be interested. We've actually had a lot of communications with West Jordan. They really like their administrative law judge. We would certainly hope that some of those folks would reach out. But again, we'll do that request for proposal process. We would then come up with our recommendation for who that person ought to be, and with the advice and consent of the council, appoint them. Did I miss anything there, Jill?
Would we use another judge in another city?
No, we would have our own, we'd have our own judge, but they
Oh,
might
then we
also
would have to
be-
hire another judge.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a part-time, it's an attorney, correct?
Yeah, it's an administrative law judge, so they're a part-time law judge, basically. So they would not be it's not a judge that's serving in the court system. It's
Right.
our own administrative judge. Yep. And that's not unprecedented either. We have hearings officer right now that serves and decides things like appeals, variances, Jim Harlan and, of course, the name just left me.
Yeah, Scott.
Scott, yes.
Timothy.
Livingston, yep. So we have this, again, they're private contracted folks that do that service for us with variances, with appeals.
I think it makes sense. I mean,
This
it
will
is
allow us to do things that citizens have requested.
Yeah.
Especially in our area where
Yeah.
we've gone over and looked, and like fences that are, there's just some stuff that really impacts the neighbors. And then, and this will also allow us to do tickets, parking, because, right now you can't ticket a car, but you'd be able to do that through this.
I mean, would it require hiring a clerk as well? I mean, how in-depth is this civil process? I mean,
So
does
that-
it require a court?
There will be a hearing process. Part of this, on that next steps I didn't go through, we would hire a code enforcement manager, and that, besides the management responsibilities, that individual will be responsible for coordinating with the hearings officer. The hearings officer, I keep saying hearings officer, the administrative law judge will have their own policies and things that they'll want to adopt in terms of the way that meetings are run, how often they're able to be available for these hearings. So we'll have to work closely with them. And also, again, just the policies and procedures of how we provide notice at the venue. It'll be here at the city. It's an informal, it's not a formal court proceedings, it's informal. There'll be minutes taken, but it's more of an informal hearing. And so that will all be coordinated through that code enforcement manager. It'll also then manage the code enforcement individuals.
So in that 11-220, the mayor shall establish policies and procedures for the holding of administrative enforcement hearings. What does that mean?
So that's, again, working with that administrative law judge. We would have to,
Just what you were just saying.
we'd have to figure out exactly what those dates would be, what the basic procedures would be, how he or she wants to run that meeting.
That's just for the hearings. He's not setting policy for.
Right, the
Over.
policy for the actual enforcement or the actual administration of the program is right before you. That's how the program will run. The actual hearings, though, we do need to work with the administrative law judge to establish what that individual wants to do in those hearings.
Yeah. And this is needed. This is needed. I live in a neighborhood that people have started to abuse the right of property ownership and have started to trash their properties. And we have people who own multiple homes that just don't take care of them. They rent them out and they just don't go take care of them. Fences are falling over and things are stored all over the place. It's just not a good
Yeah.
look. It's not
More
healthy.
complaints in that regard too.
Yeah.
So I think this will help in that process.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going the right direction. Thanks, Jeff.
Any other questions? Okay, well, do you have any?
Thanks, John.
Can I just say something real quick? When you guys see this next in 2 weeks, it's actually two separate things you'll be approving. One is to adjust our current ordinance to create the program, and one is to adopt the program. So is that?
So, yeah, one ordinance will actually create the code enforcement division within the city, and then the other would be to adopt what we talked about, the standards, the policies, the procedures for enforcement, notice policies, notice procedures, I should say, fines. There are some minimum fines that are included in the ordinance. We can look at those as well in the future, but it does provide some minimums, so.
Just want to make sure they understood that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chad, really.
Yeah.
And GL, we put through this
Excellent.
multiple times, so, yeah.
Well, I asked you before, you said it wasn't jail, it's just you, so I don't know.
Okay, our next discussion item is a joint resolution adopting the Murray City Privacy Program Policy. Brooke Smith and G.L. Litchfield presenting.
No, sorry.
Okay, there we go. Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk to you about data privacy and the privacy program. Just to give you a little bit of background, the state of Utah has passed a Utah Privacy Act that establishes a program where the state has authority to require agencies in the state of Utah to follow certain guidelines and set certain standards. Right now, we have rules in our law books, but they're all scattered throughout. So there's some privacy in like the grammar law, there's privacy in the procurement law, there's privacy all over the codes. And what they're really trying to do is establish a centralized way to govern data management and make sure that people have the power and the protections that they need to be an individual and have those rights to privacy. So it establishes guidelines governing the use of personal data, and it is required by all agencies in the state of Utah. This program is governed by the Utah Code 36A-19, and it requires us to establish a privacy program by December 31st of this year, and that really gives us the guidelines to get going and making a more centralized process. The state's mission statement essentially says that the individual has a fundamental interest in and inherent expectations of privacy regarding individuals' personal data that the individual provides to a government agency. And as you can imagine, the government agencies collect a lot of data throughout the passport process, payroll, complaints, police and fire. We all collect this data, and we want to make sure that that information is being safeguarded and protected, and we're following the retention schedules that are set in place by the state. So, who this affects? It affects Murray City, of course, but all the entities in Utah must comply with this Privacy Act. It is run by Chris Bramwell. He's the Chief Privacy Officer and the Director of the data management, and he's been leading the charge. He's been doing an excellent job trying to get this information out to us. Why it matters is it's legal compliance, and it's creating a better digital footprint for our residents, for our visitors, for our business owners, and for our employees. And I added a little snippet in here of the state of Utah. We are one of the leading states with a handful of states that are actually coming at data and saying, all right, we need to make sure that our individuals in the state are being protected and that we're following best practices. So kudos to Utah for putting this at the forefront, especially as technology is taking over and advancing. Data is the most prolific, how do I say this? It's one of the most important things in our future, and we're leading the forefront for that. The privacy program, the state of Utah has created a 3-phased approach to this, so they call it the Ready, Set, Go program. And the first phase of this is to designate a chief administrative officer, or in our case, we're going to designate it as a chief privacy officer. That's in the policy that has been drafted up for you to review. We also have to appoint records officers. Our city has 4 certified records officers right now. That's myself, Amanda Mosley, who's our procurement agent, Calvin Ashley, who is our records officer, and then Christian Reardon, who's in our police force, our police department. We all go through certified training each year. We take a test that's about over 40 questions, and we are designated by the state to release records if it is classified as public to whoever requests it. So right now, records are classified as public, private, protected, or controlled, and we go through those records and make sure that we are redacting if we need to, or we are releasing only public records.
Do we know who the CPO would be?
It would be, the mayor will appoint it, and I believe I've drawn the short stick. No, I believe I'm gonna be designated as the chief privacy, so I'll be,
3 people under you?
yeah.
So you'll be 3 CPO?
Well, I'll be over the whole city. The whole,
Oh,
yeah,
get
I like
it.
it.
Sorry.
Yeah,
You are funny.
All right, so we're here.
yes.
How the CPO? How is that going to change the structure? Like it says, it's a chief administrative office. Is this moving into the mayor's office, or is it staying? It's staying with the budget.
Yeah.
They couldn't find another designation other than chief administrative officer. They said you can use whatever term
Terminology.
you want to.
Yeah.
But the idea is that somebody is over privacy.
Yeah, so yeah, I'd be the individual over it. There is no pay change, it is
One more thing.
another level to add
You
to.
put some letters after your name now.
All right, just a few. Recently, yeah. So, and then we also have to initiate a privacy awareness training, which the state of Utah has provided us an 8-minute video that lets employees know, like, hey, you have access to records that most people don't have access to. You need to be responsible and ethical for it. I have started to roll that training out to our employees. I've sent it to over 300 individuals. I have over 280 individuals who have completed that task, and I'm gonna roll out one more phase to our Parks and Recs department soon, just because they're a little bit of a hybrid thing, but we'll get them all trained before the end of the year. And so I'm super happy with the 280 individuals that have already taken the responsibility and watched that 8-minute video. The second phase is the planning assessment phase, and this is why we're here today. The first part of that set phase is to formalize a privacy program. And so what we're going to propose next time we meet during city council is to do a joint resolution with the mayor and the city council, setting that privacy standard in place and designating myself as the CPO, and then moving forward with the trainings and the assessments that we need to do. And then the second part of that part is doing the maturity assessment. It is a 24-page document that we really have to go through and say, what records do we have? Why do we have them? How long do we keep them? How do we protect them? And then we identify and prioritize the strategies behind that governance and making sure that everyone's following those same basic rules. And then the final phase is continuing that prioritizing the strategy, and then making those impacts even tighter. So there might be something that we don't do that the state recommends that we can start implementing and putting forth in place. But for the most part, we are doing quite well in the program. So that brings us to this discussion today. It's just basically we are going to be putting forth that joint resolution next time we meet during city council, asking for approval to adopt that privacy program and allowing us the authority to get that training in place. And so with that, do you have any questions, concerns? It's a great program to put in place. It's finally getting something centralized so we can have that governance and have everyone be on the same playing field, and our citizens know what they can expect, how to get a hold of someone if they have concerns, and how we can help govern that, those
Well,
records.
it's Utah law.
Yeah, and
So
it's
we
required.
have to do it.
You have to do it, but
So
it's a good
Yeah.
law to follow.
But
Yeah.
we have to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any questions?
I guess I keep hearing about AI, and policy and procedures regarding that. Does this have anything to do with that?
It doesn't have anything specific for AI, but there is governance in AI because we're now dealing with grammar codes. We're now dealing with record. You're creating a record if you use AI, so we would be governing through that grammar code.
Do we have anything else in the city that governs AI?
Yeah, we have established an AI committee a couple months, maybe even a year ago, and we've passed an AI policy. And then there's been training. I've trained over 100 employees on how to use AI and what our policy says is allowed and not allowed. And that is a policy that we are following. We were one of the first in the state to create an AI policy for local government. So we've been very progressive in that.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Our next discussion item is an ordinance enacting section 12.28.070 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to collection fees for outstanding balance owed to the city, amending section 7.04.030, 12.30.010, 13.04.040, and 13.48.050 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to the same. Brenda Moore, presenting.
It's a lot of code sections to do very little. So currently, when someone closes their utility account and they never bothered to pay us, because a lot of times some people could be 3 months, 4 months, 5 months in arrears, we send it to a collection agency. They send us back, if they collect, 70% of whatever we sent. When we switched collection agencies, they suggested that we add language to our code that allows them to add fees on top of what we send them. They will send us back 100% if they collect it, and they get to keep 30% of whatever that total was. So that's the impetus for getting this started. Then as we were going through the code, it turned out we can't charge late fees on, according to the code, solid waste, parks, and stormwater. So we decided that if somebody bounces a check in parks or protests a valid credit card, which sometimes they do, they just forget, or they're whatever, we can start charging them fees based on that. And then stormwater, that's just a utility, we can start late fees on that utility and not just power and the others. This ordinance also clarifies, if you didn't ever notice, that according to the garbage schedule, it ended in 2020, and the thought was it just continues until we change it. Well, we put that in actual language. It now continues until we change it. And we don't have, nothing else in that changed. Those are the exact same prices. We've been watching it, and so far, we don't need to change this. That Waterworks software does a very good job of telling us when. It's probably gonna be 2028 or 2029. We'll probably need to start upping it a little bit. But we will wait until that time to see. And I think that is all that is contained in this, even though it touches a lot of sections. It just is adding those things, the late fee at 18% per annum and that kind of stuff. Any questions? And these are, bad guys.
I was gonna say, we don't turn over,
Well, no.
even if they're working with us and that kind of stuff, these are people that aren't working with us.
They've left the city,
Yeah, they're
basically.
gone.
It's the people that we will, this will affect. The people that live in the city, we have tools, mostly for everybody but just the stormwater only area. We can turn their power off.
What's the, what did you tell me the average, these people think the average collection rate would be? I just know it's not very high.
No, they're not gonna
I've
collect
worked
a
with
ton
this
of
stuff
it.
my whole life, and it's not much. I mean, it's just,
They're not gonna collect, they're gonna collect more than our last one did, which was zero. It worked its way down to basically zero. They're gonna collect more than that. They work with a bunch of cities, so they might be able to find people that they're interested. This is their job. It's a legal firm. This is what they do. They are interested in collecting this way. They'll get their 30%. And we will be able to charge whatever court fees and all of that stuff they can charge on top of what we do. So that's what this one is. And it will come before you next meeting on the 9th.
Perfect.
No brainer.
Okay. Any questions for Brenda on this agenda? Discussion on it? Okay. Next is discussion, a resolution adopting and approving the Murray City investment policy. Brenda Moore.
I'm gonna have Mindy come up, who's the city treasurer, and let her explain this. Hello.
Hi.
Mindy,
What's that?
have you got?
I've met everyone.
Mindy kind of,
She goes home at 5 o'clock.
every, all she's had here, she's always in the background. That's her style.
Yes, I'm not comfortable setting it, but.
Well, that's when I show up.
So basically, we want to change our investment policy to match the Utah Money Management Act. They made some changes so that we can allow certificate of deposits in our investments as well. Basically CDs, and then it also changes on how investment advisors and institutions are selected. And we just want to mirror that state policy, basically. And then we also had the attorney's office review it, and they changed some.
Modernized the section headings,
Yes.
is the polite way to put it. They took out the Roman numerals and put in numbers.
Yeah. And then any, minor grammatical errors and everything that they changed as well. So, and I believe you've got versions of both the old and the new in there. So there's not a ton of changes. The biggest one is probably that CDs. So.
I have one question. What is the senior 503C fund?
Go ahead.
The senior center has a.
Oh, it's the senior center.
The senior
Okay.
center has a nonprofit.
Yes,
A 501c3 that works with them.
It didn't say center, so I was going senior. Got it. No further.
And so that's their money. And
Yes.
then occasionally not occasionally, a lot. They use that money for scholarships for people who can't afford to pay for whatever they're doing.
Yep.
And they helped redo when they put that extra thing in, that helped pay for part of the extra entranceway so that you don't have to wait for the bus in the rain and that kind of stuff. They do that kind of stuff.
Good. And that was my only question. I didn't know that senior rec. I could have called
And
you
we do
Brenda.
have money that is invested as opposed to just in the PTIF. So
Sorry, as opposed to what?
just being in the PTIF, the treasurer's fund, it's a good balancing. Because when the PTIF goes up, this one goes up slower. When the PTIF goes down, this one goes down slower.
Yeah. We have a good laddering system to make sure we're investing well.
Okay. And this
Any
will come before you
questions for
again on the
Brenda?
ninth.
None? Look at that. Perfect. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If there's no other questions, I will adjourn this meeting. Council starts at 6:30.